This is Purvi from Helping Hands of USMLE. First of all, let me introduce the Helping Hands of USMLE. It's a small initiative by it's like from the participants to the participants. Some of our team members have matched, some of them are in the process of match, and we just thought of this initiative as to help people all over the world to aid in this USMLE match process. And we're back with a bang with today's webinar on research. Also, let me tell you, research is another beast. Everybody says that, okay, you need research for USMLE match, but very few can actually guide you through the way. And that's why we have arranged this webinar with our amazing participants who have done such wonderful clinically and meaningful, thoughtful research and are in the process. So they'll be able to guide you better. And with this thought, I'll introduce Monisha first. Monisha, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Monisha. I'm very excited to be here. I am a part of the IRI this year, as well as on the admissions committee. And when Arjun told us about the Helping Hands USMLE and his initiative to have all the participants in, and I was very excited about it. So I hope that this will be a very informative session. So I've put together a few of the best people here for this research panel. So if they want to introduce themselves, that'd be nice. So we'll start with Alejandro. Would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Monisha, for inviting me. So my name is Alejandro. I was a research fellow in Boston at Massachusetts General Hospital, working in the Department of Otolaryngology there in ENT. I worked there for 3 years in research, and I was doing research mainly in auditory prosthesis, like cochlear implants and auditory brainstem implants. So it was kind of translational research in between like clinical research and also basic science research. And I really enjoyed the experience. I think that's very important, that you come like with a positive energy, even people that may not like research, but with an open mind, and then enjoy the process. And in very competitive specialties such as plastic surgery, general surgery, ENT, dermatology, etc., I think research is a most, because it's going to complement your application. So I think it's very important that you do at least 2 to 3 years of research. And after doing research for 3 years, I also did a Master of Public Health. And then I applied and I got into University of Iowa, and I am starting tomorrow. So I'm very excited about it. Thank you.
Congratulations and good luck. And Romelia, I'm going to do a brief introduction.
Everyone, thank you for the invitation. I really like the idea, and Arjun told me about the Helping Hands program. And I think, guys, it's amazing the work you are doing to help others. Because we have been there. Before knowing about IRI, I had no idea how to get involved with research, and I didn't know much about the process. Well, I'm from Peru originally, and as Alejandro, we came the same year into 2020. I did my research at the Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center in hepatology. My mentor was Dr. Bonder, and my clinical, I did clinical research with autoimmune liver diseases, and this has been an amazing experience. I'm glad that Monisha, and Gabi are doing it right now. And as Alejandro said, this is a plus, not only for the application, but if you like research, it will help you for the rest of your career, because the skills you will learn are not just for the match, are not just for the moment. Some of us, in my case, I came without knowing anything about research, and that was a little scared. I was a little scared about it, but I learned a lot, and now I can use what I learned for my future career here. Thank you for the invitation again.
Of course. Let us talk with Gabby.
Hey everyone, thank you for the invitation as well. So I'm Gabriela Brandão. I'm a medical doctor actually from Brazil, and I graduated at the end of 2020, and I've been in the process of USMLE like for a while now. Kind of different of many IRI applicants. I already came to IRI with all my steps done and with some background in research. So I'm gonna apply this year, the year I'm starting the IRI. However, I think even for those who have some background in research or some networking in the US, doing a actual affiliated research program can enhance a lot of your chances by improving your network, your networking and your contacts and your skills, and even like showing your truly interest in the academics. So I'm very glad for the opportunity and hoping to take the best of this year.
Thank you. And Manish, you want to say a few words?
Hey guys, so my name is Manish and I'm from Bangalore, India. So I finished my medical school in 2022 and I've been doing research at Gersten Lab. He's the chief of cardiology at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, and I've been working under Dr. Jeremy M. Robbins for the last year. I plan to continue working under him until September and apply to the match this year. It's been a great experience working at the Gersten Lab under the chief of cardiology, where it's basically a translational research lab. So it really helped me gain a lot of information as to how things go from the bench side of research towards the clinical side of research. So research has really helped me in understanding as to how clinical cardiologists, research-based cardiologists, academic cardiologists work. And this might, hopefully it helps me in achieving my goal to become an academic cardiologist. And I hope that I can provide and gain as much information as possible from this webinar. Thank you.
And we from you as
an
well.
addendum, Manish?
Yeah, of course.
I forgot to say, but I'm research fellow at Beth Israel in the general surgery lab and applying for general surgery.
Right. Yes. And as introductions go, I'm in the oncology department and I'm working under Dr. Busiotis, and we work on immunocancer therapy. So it's a basic science lab, and it's been very insightful. Yeah. So I can pull up the slides now. I'm going to do a share screen and we can start our presentation. So, yeah. Okay. Let's see. So we're here today to talk about the role of research in the pathway to residency and what IRI provides in that way. So most of the information that I have here is pretty much from their website. So we can always go in, and it's just www.iriinitiative.com. So welcome everybody. And yeah, thank you for being here. Let's see. So we already met our panelists, but this is all of us and our credentials and what we're doing, where we're going. So to get started, what is IRI? It is a global initiative training program that serves as an educational experience that provides research opportunities at Harvard-affiliated hospitals. And this could be for anyone who's on the pathway to residency, or maybe they're an aspiring physician scientist, maybe the postdoc route, all of those things. So there are different domains of research experiences that are available to us through IRI, and it's very hands-on. And I just want to make a mention on that because I think people don't really understand what that is when you initially start research, what type of research lab you're going to be in and stuff. So we have 3 basic domains of research, which is like basic science, translational, and clinical. Basic science mainly encompasses things like biochemistry, pharmacology, physiology, all of these things and how their interplay works in the larger context of clinical sciences. And so a lot of work would be things in the wet bench lab, things like cell cultures. For example, I do bone marrow flushing to find, macrophages from mice and so on. Translational science is sort of the abridgment between basic science, clinical science. So it pretty much allows you to take the data that you and puts it into the context of clinical senses so that you have better, practice that are coming in. Clinical science is pretty much what we do expect, things like clinical trials, patient care, and whether you're taking data in the form of samples, surveys, or just blood samples, things like that. So that's about that. In addition to the actual research opportunity working in the hospitals, IRI also has the 9-month collaborative training program as the PPCR that covers the basics of research for people who are completely new to it. I know that as of this year, they've made that part, optional, but I think it's very useful for people who are new and they want to gain more experience in that way. In addition, we also have monthly career development seminars every Mondays. So that's that. This slide, it actually just shows that there's a lot of labs available to us, whether it's in the medicine departments or the surgery departments or even specialty departments. So again, all of this is available on their website. So you can just go over that as well. So just a little bit about how to apply to the IRI and the deadline. The deadline is July 31st, and the application form is available on their website that just says apply. If you're able to see my screen. And so the things that you need are the personal statement, which is pretty much a 1-page statement about what you want to do, why you're interested, and how IRI is going to help you in your pathway to residency or just your personal professional development. They have some criteria based on which you would have to answer it based on the prompts. You do need 1 LOR, which has to be directly sent to the email address by the provided reference, and the address is to the admissions committee IRI. In addition, we need the medical school transcript, preferably in English, because I know we come from very different parts of the world, so we need to have a unified way to put that into context. And of course, we have an application fee of $100, and it is by a wire transfer online. So let's get started with the panelists. So I'm very excited to meet all of you guys and learn more about your work, because each of us brings a very unique subset today. So I'm very excited to hear about that. So let's start off with Alejandro.
Thank you, Monisha.
Oh, yeah. Yes. So tell us more about what your lab and your department worked with, what type of research you guys did, because I know ENT is probably largely translational to clinical sciences. And you did mention that some of your work was basic science. So over the 3 years, was there any change in the lab type and, your work in that way?
Yeah, thank you. So my lab, it was like at Mass General Hospital, but it was in a building called Mass Pioneer, where it's just the Department of Otolaryngology and the Department of Ophthalmology. And I had 2 PIs. So because it was a translational lab, so I had a clinical PI, which was Dr. Lee, Daniel Lee, and I have basic science PI who was a PhD, and his name was Dr. Brown. So both of them were my mentors. For the process of the match and clinical research, I will go to Dr. Lee, who was my main mentor. And kind of my day-to-day role initially, I have a big research project that was assigned to me. That was mainly in auditory prosthesis, in specifically the auditory brainstem implant. So this was mostly kind of, I would say, translational research, because my day-to-day was to take all the patients that have a pathology called NF2, neurofibromatosis type 2, and take all these patients from the hospital, approximately more than 100 patients in this case, and analyze their images. So I was looking at their CT scans and looking at the position of the device in the brainstem. And they taught me from the beginning was step by step, there was someone that was a previous research fellow that was the one that told me all the techniques that I needed to know to analyze the images, to do a 3D reconstruction, look at the position of the device, and then based on the position, correlate that with the auditory outcomes of the patients. And this was like a multi-center study because we were comparing the results from our center at my Massenier with the results from another center in Europe, in Germany, in Hanover. So we were seeing if like the position was similar of the implant in both centers and how this correlated with better or worse auditory outcomes. So that was like my initial big project and the one I worked in for 3 years. But I got very interested also in basic science. So I started working with the PhDs in the lab, and they were doing mostly like mice experiments. So they taught me like how to do surgery in mice, which also was very useful for me because you learn how to do like microsurgery that will be maybe useful later when you start residency for using the microscope, etc. And that was like a different project that I had assigned, but I had help from the PhD, so it wasn't my main project. And I was also involved in like smaller clinical research projects throughout my time there, like looking not only at auditory brainstem implants, but also at cochlear implants, big databases. So PPCR was very important for that at the beginning, because that's how I learned how to use this data, for example, to analyze these databases, to know which was the correct statistical test to use. So this was very important the first year. Also having a group at IRI, like for example, Romelia, we started in 2020, we're still friends. So it's also like a community that help each other. And that's very important because it's not just about the academia, about the research, but also like meeting people, expanding your network, and also enjoying what you do every day.
Definitely. That sounds very interesting. And I also loved how you mentioned that a lot of your collaborative work was with the German institute. So it's very like, internationally driven. So that's really nice. How do you think research played a role in your application, specifically maybe like personal statements, interviews, connections? Did you think that was a very big part in addition to scores? Because everyone talks about scores, USCEs. So the role of research, do you think that was very significant in your path?
I believe it's a key part of my application. Like without research, I wouldn't have matched. So that's very important. Like doing these 3 years of research were a key like aspect of my application. I included like my research experience in my personal statement. So for example, an anecdote that I had while I was doing a research experiment with my PI. Also in the interviews, they will ask me about what was my more significant paper, and I will need to explain why I like what I was doing, what I did, like everything, because they want to know that you are the one that is doing the research and you are like the first author, and that you are the one that has the capability and the initiative to do the research that you are doing. And also for networking and connections, because you get a network. So for example, there are just 5 centers in the US that do ABIs, this type of surgery, auditory brainstem implants.
That's interesting.
So like having the connection with these other centers, which were like NYU, you could get UCSF, Johns Hopkins, and I was like talking with them in a monthly basis. So that was very important because at the end they already knew me, and they could like interview me for residency too. And I got interviews from some of these programs. So I think that was very important.
That's amazing. Yes. And why do you recommend IRI in specific? What do you think it brought to you in addition to research, and how it made it easier to get the spots that we normally get?
Yeah, I think IRI was very important to start in the US, to like get a lab, get a community, and like understand the basics of clinical research and how to apply it like in real life. And that year was so important because you were meeting like every 2 weeks with like with other research fellows to share your experience and also learn from them. So we were like having presentations of what we were doing in the lab, about our advancements, and also getting feedback from them of what can be improved in your research project. and also like getting to know them, getting to know other cultures, and what they were doing, and we will help each other afterwards in the application process for the match. So I think it was very important to be part of IRI at the beginning, and then this was very helpful throughout the 3 years I was at Boston.
Right. I'm really glad. And do you think that because ENT is a very unique path that you've chosen, did you have a lot of like other people in ENT? How did that dynamism work? Because I don't know if there were many people in ENT. So did you have a lot of support in the form of collaboration, or was it all of your work that, because it was 3 years, it's a very long time. So how did you manage like getting more publications, presentations, like building the network?
Yeah, I think that's a very important question, because in these specialties like ENT, dermatology, plastic surgery, it's a niche. So there are not many IMGs that are applying, and it's difficult to find others like that are doing the same, and that can like help specifically in what you are doing. But at the same time, like you can get advice from other people that are applying to similar specialties, like I don't know, general surgery, and that can tell you what they have done. Also, you like throughout the time you're doing research, you will meet people that are also applying to your same specialty, and you will get in contact with them, or people that already have matched IMGs, and they will be very open to help you, to give you feedback, and tell you what's the best thing to do to improve your application. And so it's different. It's a different process. It takes more time, but at the same time, it's worth it. And like when you like people are willing to help you, also having a good PI that is gonna become your mentor, that is gonna support you through the process, that is gonna expand your network, and that is going to give you the opportunity to go to conferences, presenting oral presentations, posters, etc. And I think that's very important, going to conferences, because that's where you're going to meet all other applicants, like medical students and also IMGs that are applying. And that at the same time, like even though we're applying to the same specialty, we also support each other, because we know it's a competitive specialty and all of us want to get in, but at the same time, we want to help each other in order to accomplish our dream, that is to match.
Right. That sounds really good. And could you speak a little bit to the publications and presentations that you had? Do you think there's a magic number, or is it just like the experience of it all that helps in the process of, matching into residency?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think there is a magic number. Like people that tell you that you need to have 20 publications and then you will match. That's not true.
Yeah.
Like you could have five very good publications, that you know them, that you have done a lot of work about it, that you are first author, second author, but like that you are really passionate about what you are doing, and you can match. Like having good step scores, and also having some publications that you can talk about it, that you have published in like well-known journals, and that's important. Also, oral presentations are so important, or posters in conferences in the US, because that's the way that other programs are gonna know you. Not because a publication, like they will read it and that's it. But when you're in a conference, they will see your poster. You can talk to them. You can talk to program directors, to chairs of programs, and you can tell them that you're applying to that specialty and why you're applying, and then they might be the ones that are going to interview. So that's very important.
Of course, yeah. These are all really great takeaways, and thank you. Any final word or any specific, like advice for new applicants or someone who's looking into getting into IRI? Do you have any final words in that way?
Yeah, I will say for IRI, for the IRI application, just be passionate, like really in the personal statement, try to convey why do you want to do research in the US, because everyone wants to like come to the US and like do residency. We all know that, and we want to match. But like I will say in the personal statement, try to convey like why are you passionate about coming here? Like why do you want to be in the US? Why do you want to do residency here and not in your home country? And why do you want to do research here? What do you want to do? Clinical research? Do you want to improve patients' lives? You want to improve patients' quality of life? in my case, that was the reason, like, because I knew in the US I will have the technology to improve patients' hearing, and like maybe in my home country that was not possible with the resources that we have. But I know here in the US I will have the support, the technology, the people that will help me, and I will have the network to accomplish my dream, and not just like match, which is like my main goal, but also like enjoy the process of doing research. So I think that's very important, and specifically for ENT is reaching out. You could have the best scores, you could have a very good USMLE step 1, 2, and 3 scores, but the most important thing is like having a network, having publications, doing research is very important in very competitive specialties. So that will be my final advice. And also, like, if someone wants to reach out that is applying to one of these specialties, they can reach me at my like personal email. I will type it here in the box, in the chat,
Yes.
and just send me a message, and we can stay in contact, and I will give you more advice for your application. So thank you so much, Monisha.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I think my internet has been unstable, but thank you for bearing with that. And I know that you're moving this weekend, so thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. It's been really great having you. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I will stay around as much as possible because I'm moving
Of course.
today. So I need to take
Right.
a bus from Chicago to Iowa City.
Right. Good luck with
Well, thank you so
everything.
much, and it was great to see
Yeah.
you all, Rome, Manish,
Right.
Gabriela, and Monisha, and everyone that is attending.
Take care.
All the
Yeah. Now we can move on to Romelia. Romelia, are you
Oh my
okay?
God, it's really hard going after Alejandro, right? Like
Right.
he's amazing.
That was very insightful.
Yeah, he's the rock, one of the rock star of my IRI year, and I'm super proud of him. And like I got lucky that the last year we were roomies the last year, and like we were together in the application process, and it was an honor like being like knowing Alejandro, and I'm like super proud of you all all your work, and I know that you will keep shining, my friend.
I'm
Okay,
prouder than you,
so
with
here
you, Rome. I'm very proud of you and what you have accomplished too.
thank you guys for the invitation. Well, my name is Romelia Barba Barnal, as I told you before. I'm originally from Peru. I forgot to mention that I'm coming PGY1 in internal medicine. My program is at Texas Tech University in Lubbock. When I did the IRI program, it was in 2020. The lab is a pathology in part of the GI department. My mentor is it's hard to say was, he's still my mentor. My mentor is Dr. Alan Bonder. He is from Mexico, and he is the chief of the liver transplant at the Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center. My day-to-day role, we do basically clinical research. It's totally different. Like Alejo did the cool part, right? But clinical research is nice too. What we do, like in my case, we work on a prospective registry of patients. We work with autoimmune liver diseases, and these diseases are very rare in US, in our countries. Like in my country, I didn't have any patients with this type of diseases. Maybe they are underdiagnosed. So this was a new topic for me, a new area for me, and I learned a lot. So what we do is we enroll patients to be part of the prospective study. We get clinical data from the medical records. We give them surveys because we focus on quality of life of these patients. We also do international collaborations, like the data we get from the prospective cohort, we share with international groups like the Global PBC, the BSC, like with people from Canada, with people from Europe. So when we publish, like sometimes they get data from Boston, from our center, they get data from Miami, and like it's cool because sometimes we as a research fellow get to be part of some of those meetings, and we like I got to know very important people in the field of the autoimmune liver diseases. Like besides that, like yeah, you do, like, because your position as a research fellow is not that you come and publish, like you have work to do here. So for example, this prospective data I've been working on like for more than 2 years, like people that goes after me will keep using that data, and like it's data that belongs to the hospital, so like they will keep using this, right? And but our publications are based on not only on our own prospective data, but we also work with the database, the transplant database from the US, that is a UNOS database. And I had to learn how to work with these databases. And our research is with the database, publishing with the UNOS, and also like we try to publish also like with our cohort, like how are the patients doing relating to their quality of life with our own cohort of patients. What else? How research play a role in the application, PS interviews and connections. I think like if I wouldn't do this research, I wouldn't make it maybe, because my background maybe is different from like the most of the people that come here, because I wasn't not like a recent graduate. I didn't have like research experience before coming here, and like this was a boost to my application. When I came, like I had a meeting with my boss. Hey, so this is me, because it was COVID times, everything was Zoom meetings. So when I get to know my PI in person, he told me, so here is your CV, Romero, right? So you will see that after finishing your research fellow, it will be a totally different CV. And it was true, because when it was time for application, and I compare like how I came here and how it looks now, like it's like a totally different person. Like you not only learn like to like doing research, but you learn how to like present yourself, because sometimes you can also do a lot of stuff in your country, but you don't have how to show it to them like the proper way, right? So I learned how to build properly my CV, personal statements. Also like I was lucky that my PI was also a ING. So he knew about the process. Like in his times, it was different. Now it's more complex, more competitive. And there are many factors that are adding every year to the application. But like it helped me to build like a strong connection with him, because he knew about it. He knew how it feels to be in our position. Like we don't have the same chances as US graduate medical. So he was a big support for me. Like he, like in the whole process, he was like behind me saying, hey, let's set deadlines. So we set deadlines together. Like by this time, you should give me your personal statement. He reviewed my personal statement, my CV, my ERAS profile, everything. And before the application season, he told me like, if you have emails of program directors that you need me to send emails, I can do that. But like, I know that not all the PIs can do that. Like sometimes they offer you, and sometimes it depends on like how is the relation with you and your PI, how comfortable you feel with them, like to ask them. But like I think they know that we come here too much and we need their connections. So just like ask them, because if we don't ask and we wait for them to, like, I was lucky that he offered me that. Actually, I'm a little shy, but if they don't offer you, you should ask. Like they know what we came for, right? So he sent emails too before the applications, and also like during the interviews, and like after you get the interviews, like they will ask you like which programs did you like the most, so they can send emails again after you had the interviews, because maybe you get many interviews and you don't like all the programs, and like you have your 5 favorites. Maybe your PI can send emails to your top 5. So like the connections with your PI, you have to work on that. Like if you get lucky, you will have a good relation with them and they will help you a lot. And I think that really makes a difference because it's you in the US, working already in the US, having someone that will talk like for you, like that he will give his word that you are a good candidate, right? And they have another candidate that no one sent any email. So they will just look at her CV, but they won't have like a backup, like someone that will support that applicant, right?
Yes.
So I think that really makes the difference. It's not the same. And what else? For the interviews, I heard that some PIs can also like do mock interviews with you, but we have to understand that they are really busy people. So sometimes you like I didn't do any mock interview with my PI, but I know that other PIs do. How do you recommend IR?
Oh yeah, we've covered that part, the connections part. Yeah, the next one. Why do you recommend IRI?
Well, just to finish this with the application, like for internal medicine, I know like there are many spots for internal medicine. It's not as competitive as, for example, plastic surgery, ENT as Alejandro. But I think like the research we are doing, if it doesn't help you for the application, it will help you for the fellowship, right? For example, Manish, he said he's working on cardiology. What he's doing now will help him a lot for the fellowship because once you start the residency, you won't have the same time to do like to spend the same time doing research in your residency. But what have you been published right now, it won't be deleted, right? It's already on the database basis. So it will work for your fellowship also. And in my case, in internal medicine, I had like several type of interviews programs. I mean, like you can get interviews from community programs, from university programs, or like university affiliated programs. So the profile they're looking for is different. For the community program, sometimes it's not that important, the research you do. But like if they know they are not that academic and they don't have like this research in their program, maybe you can be an asset there because the knowledge you have and the skills you will learn in the IRI will help you also during your residency. Maybe not in the first year, but maybe in the second and the third year, wherever you have learned, you can use it there and you can be like the leader in your program, like for like doing the research, like your other colleagues can help you, like writing, you can do the analysis because we do learn this stuff here. Like before IRI, I didn't know much about like Stara and doing analysis, and now I feel confident that I can do it by myself. Like before, someone helped me and someone teach me, and we had to do some courses, right? But now, like after that, like it's knowledge that we won't forget, right? We can review again the codes, the commands, and we can do that and use these skills in the future. So that's why I recommend IRI, because wherever you will learn, it will be useful for your future, not only for the match, but for the fellowship.
And I think you made an interesting point about how the data and things that we work on, it stays for a longer period of time because everybody is under this time pressure is that, hey, I'm working here for a year or two. And if they don't get like the projects and the publications out, they start stressing out because they're like, what am I doing here? You know, you start getting all imposter syndrome and things. But you made a really good point that even if we do the research because you're working with your PI and leaving these little bits of like, you know, data for them to follow with, there's prospective studies that like, you know, later people pick up on. And when the publications happen, you're part of it. So I don't think a lot of people have that concept of like the time frame. So that's very interesting for me.
Yeah, and also like for example, in my lab, like previous fellows of my lab, they keep working with Dr. Bonder. So it's like we have like, oh, So I was saying, like, for example, in my lab, previous fellows keep I'm sorry,
Oh, sorry.
should I stop now?
Mhm.
No,
Monisha?
keep going, Rome. I think it's her internet connection. Just keep going for now.
Hello?
Okay. So okay, so past fellows keep working with Dr. Bonder, and like we have like a amazing group of people. Like I'm pretty sure that now that I'm
Hi,
not
guys.
in Boston, but I'm sure that I will keep working with them. Like the relations and the connections that we made, I think like we will keep doing it. If like that's why I was saying like it's important how is the relationship with you and your PI and your team, because it will kill it, like it will help you for the future. Like I still have projects with them, and I know like they will have deadlines, and if I have ideas I can like, hey Dr. Bonder, I have this idea, what do you think? I will have the chance to keep working with them. About the
Of course.
publications, presentations, and more, as Alejandro said, there is not a magic number, because like, for example, in basic science, maybe your work won't be published while you are in the IRI. And then maybe it will get published like when you are in their fellowship, because there are complex projects in basics and translational research. But in my case, that was clinical, we are very productive because there are not that like sophisticated. And so we already have databases, we already have data. So for us, it's easier to publish and do presentations. And we usually send present our abstracts to two conferences, the liver meeting and the digestive disease week every year. And we do that every year. And Dr. Bonder is known for being productive actually, because to the conference, he usually sends like 5 or 6 abstracts to each conference. So we get to publish and present a lot. And like when we came, it was there, even the conference were through Zoom. But last year I got the chance to go to Washington. This year I went to Chicago, and hopefully if we get our after accepted, maybe I can be in Boston this year for the liver meeting. And as Alejandro said, like you will get to know people. Like for example, in my case, I'm a little shy. I'm not like the people that is. I'm not that easy like to talk to people I don't know. And so going to this conference really helped me. And like when you have a poster, yeah, people will reach out to you. Like I saw in Chicago, I was presenting my poster, and in front of me, I saw like the same topic of research. Like it was almost the same actually. Mine was autoimmune hepatitis and NASH, and she was autoimmune hepatitis and NAFL. And I was like, oh my God, we're studying the same thing.
Yes.
And she was a PGY1. She was an intern from the Rush University program. And I was like, what are the odds? So like after that, we got connected, like we shared contacts, and maybe in the future, like we will publish together, like BI and Rush. So like you never know what can happen in this conference. So like that's the like what goes behind a poster present. It's not just a poster presentation. Like you will know people. And then specifics, as Alejandro said, like it's not only about research, like the IRI experience is like you will go there, you will meet a group of people from different part of the world, you will learn about their culture, which is for me is amazing, like learning about the different cultures. And it will be the same when you start residency, because in the residency you will see that you will match, and there will be people, like in my case, people from Libya, Egypt, Brazil, not only from the US, and like they will be your family for the next 3 years. And in this case, IRI, they will be your family for a year in Boston, because most of us, we don't have family here, right? So it's also an important, like it will be your support, like a support system that you will have. So it's good to have a good
Definitely.
relationship with your colleagues too, because also like when you do a WhatsApp group, sometimes we don't know questions about research, like any specific thing, how to analyze, and they know. And as Alejandro said, when we get the weekly meetings for the IRI, we present our projects and then they will ask questions and give us feedback. And like, I was amazing every Monday, like, oh my God, how can they know that much about research? And you will learn
Right.
from your colleagues too, not only from your PI. So that's important, like build connections not only for your application but for your life too. And like the friends I met in through the IRI, I think I met friends for life. We are still in contact, and we are super proud of each other. And during the application, it was also super helpful having them like helping us, because sometimes people from your year doesn't apply that year but will apply next year, and maybe previous IRI fellows, they you reach out to them and they help you. So like this is a family, and it goes beyond the research. Well, that's all.
Very true. Yeah. Thank you so much, Romelia. That was very helpful and insightful. You had a lot of great points about why IRI is important and how it helped in the whole research and residency path. Yeah. And congratulations and good luck for your internal medicine residency. Yeah.
Thank you.
Wait, okay, internet is back. So next we get to meet Gabriela. Hi, Gabri.
Hi. It's so
How are you
hard to
today?
talk. Doing great. It's so hard to talk after some amazing fellows, which did a lot of amazing work and were successful. And it is hard in the sense also because you don't know how successful you're gonna be in the future. So I'm gonna try to tell my experience by far, but I don't know if it's gonna work or not. So I'm doing my best. So I'm Gabriela, and
It's
as
very
I
unique
said,
having you here because you represent the surgery aspect of things. So we're excited to have you here. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, as Monisha said, I'm working on surgery. For surgery, it's maybe some kind of different of other labs because there is like a general surgery department, but very specific fields. For example, in mine, in the at Israel is like pancreatic surgery, but combined with surgical education and also a bit of disparities. So it's a lot of things going together in the clinical sense, and also is kind of different in the sense of you do not have in at the beginning some task to do or some project to do or a path to follow. You have to create your own projects and ideas and go forward with that, which is very interesting because it's very challenging, but at the same time you feel you are creating your own
Path.
projects and ideas,
right.
thoughts for the future when you're not gonna have anyone telling what to do. So yep.
Yeah. So what is your day-to-day role like, and how do you like it, and what are your general, like, say, work day? What is it like? Because you're a current fellow, so it's a different experience coming from someone who's still in the part of the match process, much like us and like Monisha and I as well. So what is your day-to-day role like? Yeah.
Yeah, the interesting part of my lab, it's because it's like an office and the work I do isn't on my own computer. I can do it from anywhere, which is nice in the sense you can work from home or from the library or even from the office, which is the best place because you can connect with your colleagues in a daily basis. but you also have the freedom to maybe go for a conference, much like for a extended time, or you can do your own schedule. But in my case, I have some obligations in my week. For example, IRI classes on the Mondays, the grand rounds on the Wednesdays, and lab meetings on Fridays. So I have some days I have to go to the office, and usually Tuesday and Thursday I could be work from home, but I usually work from office if there's nothing special going on in life.
Okay.
And
yeah. And are you taking PPCR class this year? Like, I was just wondering because I think a few of us are not, because I'm not either.
No.
So okay.
I
yeah,
opted
right.
to not to do that
Okay.
for some recommendations, but
yeah.
also because of the price of it, of course.
Sure. Yeah.
And I know as Harvard affiliated hospital, we also have access to some other courses who can improve our statistical knowledge. But yeah, I because I work kind of independently, I can my routine is based on getting to the lab, starting reviewing some emails, some past works to do, some tasks, and then start work on my ideas. At this point, like 2 months or 2 to 3 months working, I've been working on 3 to 4 projects. One is done and the other is going. And it's very nice to see your work progress because you put so much effort on it, and in my case, my PI just give feedbacks, little adjustments, and she guide me through. But it's so rewarding to see that your own like little tree grow because of your idea. Anyway.
Right. That's very nice. Are you in a basic science lab, translational or clinical, or do you kind of have an interplay of all in your lab?
No,
how does it work?
It's totally clinical, but at the same time, we can have access to patient data from the hospital. And we also have access to something specific from surgery and NSQIP, which is a national database we can work with, quality improvement related. And also I've been working on some no patient related data, for example, studying the patient's access to materials, educational materials about surgery, or even doing meta-analysis, systematic reviews. I'm trying to diverse my my tools for research, so I can I do not focus only on one kind of analysis, because I had some knowledge on statistics and research, but I also want to like improve my patient capacity of like my patient analysis capacity, going to another level. So it's been a great learning process to me as well. Why do I recommend IRI now?
Yeah, that's really nice. And why would you recommend IRI to any
Sure. So I was searching, given kind of a context, I was searching for research positions after doing steps and everything, because we know surgery, despite it's being a general specialty, it is very closed for IMGs. I know from a lot of, like, the majority of programs don't even consider your application they filter you out because you are MEG. So the research is part of getting through these filters, like breaking them and showing your value as a researcher, as a resident, professional, future leader, and also the context you gain from it. But specifically IRI, I chose by other opportunities because of I knew beforehand that the community IRI provides, it's a unique thing in US for research fellows. The community of your colleagues, you build in, like you have a class of supporting system, you make friends who can support you in a year you are out of your country, alone in a new city, and even in a different culture. So for me, it has been totally important. And of course, Boston, it's an academic city, so you smells academics everywhere you go. It's very interesting because in the weekends, for example, you can go anywhere and you feel people are amazing. I don't know how to explain it very well, but you feel the city, it's very historical. It has so much, you can see so much potential in anyone around. So it's kind of stimulating for
really
you
nice.
too.
Yeah, it sounds very holistic, and I think it's very relatable because so many of the people, as you mentioned, are from academics and academia. So nice to see people pursuing their paths. It's very inspiring as a city, as you told.
Exactly. And even when reuniting with, for example, I try to get in contact with other Brazilians from Boston, and they are in totally different paths, not even in medicine, but they are all amazing, passionate with what they do here. So it's very inspiring to try to pursue my own passions and try to search for my journey. So I think the Boston,
sorry. Yes. Hey, Gabriela, Monisha, everybody. Sorry to interrupt you. I always joke. So the IQ of 1 centimeter cube of Boston and Cambridge is more than most of the landscapes all over the world.
That's funny.
So every
It's like the academic pinnacle.
Yes, every 1 centimeter cube IQ is much more than other place. So because you guys are doing this, I thought I'll share my joke. Sorry, carry on.
No problem. Yeah, I think
It's very
Boston
relatable.
is unique in many aspects. I could be for a long time mentioning, but of course, IRI also as a community living in this city, it's totally unique. So for me, it was the best decision ever.
That's really nice. Yeah. And do you have any specifics, takeaway points, or advice to people who are considering IRI? Because your experience has been very, flavorful, and you're glad that you're here. Do you have any advice for people who are going to be applying or thinking to apply?
I think for surgery applicants, you have to have in mind that, as I mentioned, it's a very close field. Despite it's not, it does not seem so when you are seeing from outside, but when you are working through your application, you see many PDs saying out loud in conferences they don't even consider IMGs without someone asking them to.
Right.
So going to conferences, making those connections with PDs and faculties, ask them to consider you because you have XIZ skills or abilities. it's very important, but of course you has to have someone to speak a view out to them.
Right.
So that I think that's a main huge advantage
Factor
of
in
being
it, right?
factor, yeah, in research year.
Definitely.
Because you have a mentor, you have your lab who can reach out for you. So yeah.
That's really great. Thank you so much, Gabriela. Good luck with your surgery department and, match process. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And finally, but not last but not least, we have Manish. Hi, Manish.
Hey guys, so my name is Manish, and to begin with, I'd like to congratulate Alejandro and Romelia on their matches and wish them all the best in their respective journeys and what they have to come forward.
Thank you so much, Manish.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, and Alejandro have already covered the aspects of how research has helped them match into the respective residencies. I would probably go into the specifics of what I do in research and how my day-to-day research is going by. So I work at the Gersten lab at the Center of Life Sciences. Dr. Robert Gersten is the chief of cardiology at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center. He has a fairly big lab which consists of around 23 people, which has close to 7 cardiologists and endocrinologists. There's 4 or 5 clinical research assistants, and there's 3 to 4 postdocs, and it's a fairly large lab. I was working under Dr. Jeremy M. Robbins, who is the director of the Cardiac Exercise Physiology Laboratory at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center in cardiology. So my research primarily focused on the cardiovascular and cardiometabolic effects of that exercise has, and it was a translational lab. So to begin with, how my days were with the research that I was doing was I was majorly working on a multitude of cohorts, like for example, the Heritage cohort, the Jackson Heart Study cohort, the Framingham Heart Study cohort, JHS, CHS. These were a few of the cohorts that they were working on. To give into context as to how these cohorts were made, for example, the Heritage cohort that I was working on was an exercise intervention study that was done in 1994.
Wow. Before I was born. long process.
Intervention study that was done in 1994, where they made around about 700 people exercise for supervised exercising sessions for 20 weeks and collected samples before the start of their exercise training and 8 months into exercise. And these samples are being run on proteomics and metabolomics machines. That is basically the Soma and Olink machines, which are particular machines which kind of run these samples and try to give us a descriptive idea of all the samples. So just to bring into context, it's been close to 25 years, and the data from that one particular study is still being used to date, 25 years later. In terms of research, that this is one of the cohorts that I was working on. So my day-to-day role would be maintaining a database for and 2 other projects, which is the heart failure with preserved ejection fraction study and the TAVR study, transaortic catheter replacement studies that I was working on and maintaining those databases, along with working on these proteomics and metabolomics studies. So I was fortunate enough that when I was doing research, my PI, Dr. Robbins, allowed me to accompany him into clinics. So he usually had his clinics every Tuesday. So every Tuesday afternoon, I had the opportunity to go to him, go into clinic, observe patients, and I also had the opportunity to join him in his CCU rounds, cardiac critical care unit rounds, when he was on the he was on call for a long duration of time, so he also allowed
Mhm.
me to the CCU and follow him around. The rest of the days I Gabriela said, even I had the flexibility of working from home, but I used to prefer going in since it helps in contacts and meeting new people and talking to your colleagues. So the rest of the days, my primary role is maintaining the database for a couple of projects and statistical analyses using R on the cohort that I just mentioned, the heritage cohort and the Jackson cohort, and comparing these cohorts in terms of that. So to give you a broad idea of how my particular lab used to work, so they used to have these RCTs where they used to obtain these blood samples from these randomized controlled trials, which were primarily related to the to cardiology, example, the JHS, FHS that I just mentioned. And they used to run
Mhm.
these blood samples that they obtained on the proteomics and metabolomics platforms, and they used to use this data to infer on clinical outcomes as to, okay, this is increasing, this is
Mm.
probably relevant, this is not relevant, by using the statistical tests. So
Mhm.
once heard on this kind of data, they tried to solidify this particular finding by comparing with a larger cohort, for example, the UK Biobank, and these larger cohorts helped in adding sufficient power to the studies. So that
Mhm.
was a broad excerpt of how the research happened, of how my research days were in Boston.
That's
Yeah.
nice. Do you think there was a very large role of statistics in your lab? Because I noticed that you said R programming, and I think Excel, people use a lot of that as well. So is it beneficial if someone knew it beforehand, or is it okay to come in and like learn that stuff? What do you
Yes.
think about that? Mhm.
One aspect, to be candid here, it is beneficial if you know coding early on and how to perform these statistical tests yourself. But you do not need to know that. Being medical students and just starting off with our journeys now, we are not expected to know programming and coding to the extent that biomedical engineers or bioinformatics engineers, because there
Mhm.
were in the Gersten lab itself, there was two employed people who were bioinformatics engineering students who were bioinformatics majors, whose primary job was to perform statistical analyses on these data. And it would be nice for you to know the statistical tests that
Mhm.
are in terms of your research, but you do not need to know you do not need to know biostatistics to the level of a PhD or
Right.
something professionally do.
Mhm.
It would be helpful, but
Mhm.
not necessary.
Right. Yeah. Why do you recommend IRI to any future applicants? And what do you think the it factor would be like when it comes to the point of like residency applications? Because you've been here for a year, so you have an edge above like the, people here. So the new applicants.
People would be one of the main reasons would be, we've all heard that how do you get research? So how do you get research? You send emails to research, cold emailing different.
Mm,
And you also should know that the success rate is 1 in 500 people might, by sending 500 emails, you might get one acceptance for a research
yeah.
position. But on the other hand, with IRI, it's a more structured program where you have a particular sequence of events, and you just need to submit your CV and an LOR. And the structure of the program is one of the reason I would recommend IRI to all future applicants. Yeah.
That's nice. And I noticed that you have taken PPCR class that because it was mandatory when you guys like came in here, right? So do you think that was very helpful to you in learning the different skill sets of like, research, statistics, all of that stuff?
PPCR did provide me with a fairly good amount of knowledge in terms of how to conduct observational studies, how to conduct randomized controlled trials. Granted, most of my work was not related to an observational study or an RCT, but it does
Mm-hmm.
provide with a basic framework of as to how research works and how you get started off with research. So if you have absolutely no idea about what research is or how research works, joining the PCR program will give you a platform, and it kind of gets you up to date to put you on your feet and continue in your particular research endeavors. So I would recommend the PPCR program to someone who is just starting research afresh.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Do you have any final takeaway words or specifics that you found in your journey that maybe if someone told you differently, or early on things would be different, or anything like that, or even advice to anyone who's newly applying?
Be honest, I would say one of the biggest pieces of advice I'd like to give in terms of research is research does take time. Research takes time. So, especially when you're in basic science or translational science and it's not clinical, it's going to take a lot of time. So, initially, to be honest, when I came in 2022, early 2022, I was under the assumption that, oh, I'm going to go there, go to Boston and publish 10, 15 papers, and I'm going to do that. But once I came here, the nuances that's involved in this research, and as to how detailed things are, and as to how precise things are in research. There's PhDs and cardiology fellows and attendings who've just finished cardiology fellowship, who spent a year and a half on getting an abstract and a paper published. So once I came here, I understood that, okay, research does take time, but the value of research, like Romelia and Alejandro had mentioned, was immense in matching. And the only issue is you need to be willing to dedicate that time to do research. So if you're willing to dedicate time to do research and hone your skills, it's going to help you to an immense level. That's what I.
That's really nice. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. It sounds really wonderful. Yeah. And I think we are ready to wrap it up, guys, because we went through everybody. So I just want to say, if anyone has any questions, they can put it in the chat box, or specifically to people on the panel today. And let's see. And thank you, Romelia, Alejandro, Gabriela, Manish. Thank you for joining today, taking the time. Yes.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. I mean, it is such a wonderful meeting with so many good points. I somehow feel I wish I knew this before. But
there's always a takeaway every time we have these sessions,
yes.
like.
Right. So Monisha, if you could stop your screen, share. I have a few questions in the chat box.
Sure, let's go for it.
All right. So first question I have in the chat box is, may I know what is the total duration of this IRI research?
Yes. So when the application deadline is July end of every year. So even this year, July 31st, the exact duration is usually a year, because IRI forms like a platform that you would step into, and then maybe like, Romelia, Alejandro, they have like been absorbed into their lab after that. So the first initial year is the guaranteed year that you have with IRI. It's a whole year long. It starts from March and ends in March. But different people come in at different times, depending on when their J1 visa gets approved, and he's on a J1 visa. I don't know if I mentioned that, but yeah, so it depends on that. So people come rolling in all the way till June sometimes, but it's a year long. That's how long it is.
Okay. Yeah. Then I have a question in the chat box which says that the person wants to know who set up this, who founded this IRI, and how can he get in touch with the founders versus the initiators? If you want to go
leadership, I mean, there were many people to introduce on this panel, so leadership wise. So mainly we have Anna Sophia. She's actually a surgery resident now, and she was the one who sort of was the first initial coming in, and she set up all of these things. And we also have Manuel Castillo. So all of this information can be found on the website of IRI Initiative, and they can directly get in touch with them through their Instagram handles. IRI has its own Instagram handle itself, so you can just like send in any specific questions that they have towards that. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Right. And I have one more question here who asks, do we get paid during this initiative?
Paid. So the J1 is actually like a work visa, but IRI on its own, because it's also a training program rather than just work basis. So the first year is usually not paid. I know that there are some people who have different arrangements with the labs, but majority, almost like 99%, it's not paid. But the second year onward, they do join the lab as a full-time, and that's when they do get paid. So that's how it is.
Okay. Before we wrap up, I had a few questions so that we can streamline our whole meeting and concisely for the applicants this year. So for example, if I'm a medical student, when should I start my application process? Like in my third year, how many years before, how many months before? What
Is
should
this for
be the
IRI
time?
or like the
For
residency?
the IRI.
What is the
IRI? Like
IRI?
if I'm a medical student and want to do the IRI,
right.
like when should I start? Get the ball rolling.
Yeah, I'm actually really glad for that question because so this is actually for a medical graduate rather than a medical student. So please be aware because some people do run into, you know, visa situations where you just, it's supposed to be like a work situation, like a work visa. So I would say as medical graduates, maybe towards the end of internship or to, like, you know, when you're taking that transitionary period of time, that is a good time. When you're completely done with it and you have your medical degree, that would be the right time.
Okay.
So
yeah. On an average, I
Monisha,
think it takes a few months to apply.
Yeah, Romelia,
yeah,
did you
so
have something
like
to add?
I think like I know like one of the past IRI fellows because sometimes like med students they can do apply to IRI. For example, I know like there was a research fellow that he wants to apply to surgery. So he came to do the IRI when he was a med student. So he did all the research. I think he was in Boston for 2 years, and then he went back to Ecuador to graduate. And I think like by the time he will apply, he will be like graduating, applying to the match with all the research already done. So like that's another strategy to do. Like if you are a med student, you cannot like, but he stopped the med school for 2 years to go to Boston, and then he went back and finished med school. So like that's a like that's another pathway. So like everyone has a different story. So if someone thinks about like applying to IRI before graduation, yeah, it's possible, but it depends like on which are your goals.
Right. Yeah, so that's an interesting.
But I have a sorry for interrupting. I just had one extra point to what Romelia said, and I think it's really nice that students do come in as like pre-graduates. But I do know that the J1 visa is actually a work visa. So if you come in as a student, a lot of countries have the 2-year home country rule. So you don't want that to get into effect as part of this, like, you know, J1 cycle. So Monisha, actually, do you want to take a hit at this question? Because I feel like you know this answer a little bit about J1 in general.
So the specific rule that I would like to just point out here is that if you come in here as a student and you want to pursue research before you graduate from medical school, most countries, especially India, and from what I've heard, many South American countries too, from my friends, if you come in here as a J1 student intern, so you're still enrolled in a medical school or degree program back home from wherever you are allowed only for a maximum period of 1 year. So you cannot do research for more, and even if you want to do research for more than 1 year, you will have a 12-month bar. So once you've been given a J1 student intern visa or a J1 visa to pursue research as a student intern, once you're done with your 12-month program, you will have to return back home for the next 12 months because you'll have a bar. So it is usually preferable if you graduate and get here so that you can have a continuous stream where you finish a year, you get extended for your J1 because you can extend your J1 for a maximum of 5 years. But if you do decide to come here as a student and you stay for more than 6 months, 6 to 12 months, you will have a 12-month bar. So it would be better if you kind of graduate and then show up here. So you can have a complete stream where you continue doing research and end up matching as soon as you're done. So
Right. Mhm.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question for Gabriela. Um, so one of the applicants or versus participants wants to know, how can you maximize your chance of getting accepted by IRI? So what should be done in the application process, like LORs, or how can one maximize the chance?
Sure. Well, I'm not part of the admission committee from the IRI, so I don't know for the truth, but my recommendations would be showing truthfully passion for what you're gonna do. So for research, if you don't have any background research, so passion for your interest in learning how to do it and how it's gonna improve your goals professionally in the US, for example, to have some short-term, long-term goals. It's like essential, I guess, for to be approved. I mean, everybody has to have, even if it's not gonna be real for the long time, because life happens in so many ways, but you have to have
Yeah.
a vision of how your life is gonna be in 5-10 years, where you're gonna be, where you're gonna what you're gonna do in the future. If you want to, like as myself, an academic surgeon or a community surgeon, I want to be working with surgical oncology patients, etc. So you have to have some future perspectives, even if you don't have background on that. Just being passionate about your future, I think it's a great differential.
Okay. You can take up the next question, Romelia. Are there any other alternatives for research, if not IRI? I think you're mute.
Oh, you muted?
Yeah.
Like you're muted.
What's the question?
Are there any other alternatives for research, if not IRI? I think Manish partly answered that question while he was talking, that you cold email maybe multiple scientists, physicians, and possibly 1 out of 500 will reply. But yes, do you have any other alternative in your mind while navigating research, if not IRI?
If there are another ways to do research that is not IRI.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Like, and we don't know about this before coming here, but once you are here in US, you get to know other research fellows that are not part of the IRI. For example, in my case, I work at the Liver Research Center, and there is another PI in the same floor, and she does her own recruitment process. She's not part of any program, and so what she brings, like, for example, right now are like 6 fellows with her.
Mm-hmm.
And these fellows recommend other fellows for the next year, because she's like, okay, I will need fellows for the next year. Do you have any recommendations? And these fellows recommend their colleagues from their own countries.
Right.
But she's always open to receive like people from other places. Like when she asked me, I didn't know, oh no, I don't know anybody who is about to come because I'm old. And so I don't know, like young people that wants to come here. But usually they like, and they are from Pakistan, most of them. Like Arjun, I met Arjun because his PI, Arjun, he works in the same floor as me, the Liver Research Center. And his PI is Dr. Lau. And so they have an amazing group. And like now I'm friends with them, and I was like kind of adopted by his PI. Yeah, so that's another way. And also, like, I know that if you go to the, like, for example, if there is any field you are interested in, you can go to the publications and you will find the email of the principal investigator of any paper you like. Like, you maybe I would like to go to Mass General, and I would like to do research, I don't know, in hematology. And I saw this publication I see myself working with them. So maybe I can send an email. You can send emails. The worst things that can happen is that they won't answer, right? And that's another way. Like you find emails also on the papers. And so there are many ways of doing it. Also, like these kind of webinars, right? Helping hands. Now that these will be published, people will get to know about this, because I heard about IRI in a Kaplan Academy in Chicago. Some colleagues were leaving, and I was like, "Where are you going?" And they said, "Ah, we're going to Boston because we got accepted to do the research." And I was like, "What is that? What is that about?" And they told me about the program, and I've applied. And so it's like there are many ways to come and do research. Here in my program, the residency, like I just met the other interns, and one was doing research in Baylor, other was doing research in Columbia, and so like, and they didn't come through a program. And one of they told me, "Hey, do you know someone that wants to come to Columbia, because my position is available? I just match and they need a research fellow." So it's like you never know, right? And like, for example, right now, after they publish this, like people will add you guys to Instagram maybe, right? And like as IMGs, like we should be open to let them know about these opportunities. Like maybe we don't have time sometimes, like, and maybe we can like delay in our answers, but like we try to help each other because we have been in this position before. Like I was in the position about not knowing about research and not knowing about the IRI or any other opportunities, but I think like these are other ways to get some research positions.
Thank you so
Right.
much.
Thank you.
Manish, if you could take this question, do you need an LOR from US faculty for applying for IRI?
To be honest, no, because when I personally applied, I did not have any relation to any US faculty. So I applied from an LOR from my medical school, from my professor from my medical school. So you do not need any US faculty to write that recommendation. So anybody in your medical school who knows you, whom you work with, if you have any prior research experience in your own medical school and you've worked under somebody, their LOR should be good enough for you.
In short, you can apply from anywhere in the world without knowing anybody from the US. Correct. How many posts can be applied? Like somebody wants to know, can you apply to different fields? I remember Monisha showing us a slide of different labs. So I guess the question means how many labs can you apply? Is there a minimum versus maximum?
No, it's usually one application. What we're trying to do is to make sure that you're actually applying to one specific focus because that's your actual interest. So that's one of the things that we look for as part of the admissions committee, that you're not too diversified, because you shouldn't be like, I'm going to throw a stone, let it go hit whichever one, right? That's not the intent here. This is more for a very streamlined, focused, and, imagine you want cardiology, then all of the streamlined things on your resume and like your personal statement, LOR, it's better if it converges into one and it's one application. So that's how that works.
Well, thank you. And Monisha, as a continuation of that question, do you need transcript from the medical school for IRI? Of course, you need transcript for other purposes, but for IRI, do you need one?
Yes, we do have that as one of our application requirements, and it's better it's in English because again we're trying to unify what we see in the grading system, all that stuff, right?
So next question is, can I apply for IRI if I'm applying for ERAS for this September? I think no, because it will be a lot of waste of time and energy from your end. And ERAS itself is such a draining process. Even if you get selected, I think the whole process would not be useful to you. Of course, you can keep it as a backup, I guess.
Beneficial.
Yes, backup in case. I mean, we do not want that anybody goes unmatched, but if at all, keeping a backup would be maybe a good idea. But if I were an applicant, I would fully focus my 200% energy on ERAS rather than applying here and there.
But
There are-
I think in the website they disclose that if you're applying this cycle, you are not allowed to apply to IRI.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you, Gabriela, I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. There were a few questions which have been answered from Q&A section by Gabriela herself. If anybody wants to, I'll just repeat those so that people from who have not asked this question will also be benefiting. So, do you need LOR from US faculty? No. How many posts can be applied? We answered that. Somebody has asked, oh yeah, I think they're the same. We covered almost all of the questions. And just a final question from me, because we come from all different backgrounds. We are in training, always short on money, and always big on loans. Currencies are different. The conversion is different. So on an average, if we talk in US dollars, how much financial how much finances would you be considering for 1 year of IRI?
I think
Someone who stayed a
IRI.
year.
I think IRI, and not because of IRI, but because of the visa process, they require you to prove like I think $39,000 to sustain yourself for a year. But of course, in the real life, you don't need that much. If you are more less comfort, I would say, because money it's to the moon how you want to spend. But of course, if you don't want that much comfort, you are okay like sharing home or not going out every single day, like doing your own food, you can spend I would risk saying $1,800 or $2,000 per month. I don't know if I think it varies for person to person. Maybe someone has a different range to share.
So maybe we're talking something about somewhere between $30,000 to $40,000, given a margin.
Right. The only reason is I think they expect for that to be reflected as part of the bank statement, but I don't really know if that amount of money really like goes into the state. But Boston is pretty like expensive for rent, and yeah, it's there. It's definitely there.
All right. Monisha,
Boston is expensive.
What was that?
Boston is beautiful. It's beautiful, but it's expensive.
Yeah.
But the good thing about Boston is like it's a walkable city. Like if you like to walk and you don't mind about the weather because most of the year is cold, you can walk. Like the public transportation is amazing. You can just pay like a monthly rate for your Charlie card. But sometimes some of the labs pay for your Charlie card, and we don't know. Like I figured out like when I was leaving. But it's like super easy to take the train, the bus, walk, and like it's an emergency you can take Uber. But and also like for the food you can figure out like there are expensive markets like Whole Foods is expensive, and the Star Market but like some people, like if you have another friends, like they have this high market. Have you heard about it?
Yes.
So in high market, you can go on the weekends and buy like organic stuff from Whole Foods and other markets, like for $1, $2, or $3. It's amazing. You just go, okay, $1 a box of blueberries.
I know.
That is $5.99. So you will find ways to survive in Boston, like with food, transportation. It's like if you really want to go there, you will figure out. Yeah, money is a little like stressful, but I think like most of the money will go to the rest. The rest you will figure out.
Right. So in
And
short,
also
there are
some of
ways
the
to work
labs,
around.
some of the labs, like this is an unpaid research position for 1 year. After the first year, some labs can offer you like a salary because some labs have a budget, but not all all the labs have a budget. Also, another option is like some of the labs can give you a stipend that is not a salary, but it's around like $400 that can help you with your food or maybe with the transportation. But yeah, you have to be aware of that, like about the budget, how much you would spend, and it also like depends on everyone's needs. Like someone eats just a little, someone spends more much money eating. So like if you get accepted and you are planning to come here, just reach out to past fellows and they will help you out with this, like organizing your budget.
Right. I think at the end, I would say the money put in the whole year would pay back later. Like, the whole ERAS process is so expensive. You're putting your bets and you're gambling on matching. So I think this will pay back later when you apply for match. There's a question for Manish specifically. Which classes did you talk about when you were giving your short talk? And the pile wants you to spell it out here.
Oh, it's the exact same class that we started with, the PPCR class,
Mhm.
Principles of Clinical Research, by the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Medical. I'll type it out in the chat box.
Yeah, sure. So it remains there, and I think she can make a use of it. Mhm.
And in terms of the $39,000, the $39,000 is just a one-time thing that you need to show in your bank account for them to issue you a DS 2019, because they prorate the calculation as to, one student, how much they need to survive. So it's only during your visa interview or whenever you have to show them that you have the sufficient amount of funds.
Mhm.
So it's during that time when you're going to the embassy. After that, you can always
Right.
survive on how much ever you need. Yeah.
Understood. All right. I think it's time to wrap up, but I'm really thankful to Monisha, Romelia, Manish, Gabriela, and of course Alejandro. Congratulations, guys, on such wonderful research work that you've done, and all the best for prospective applicants. Congratulations, guys, to who have already matched. And I'm really sure this meeting and webinar will be of really helpful to people who listen to it. All right. Thank you.
Thank you for
Have a
having
good
us and
day.
inviting all of us. And
Sure.
thank you, panelists, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good
And
weekend.
thank you, Purvi.
Bye, guys.
Have a good
Thank
weekend.
you for having us.
Bye.
First,
Yes.
bye-bye.
Thank you.